Greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And you know, if there's one thing that I don't like, it's hypocrisy. I hate this two-tiered system of justice that we have out here. And especially now that we know that Hunter Biden can go out there and have this gun charge where he lied on a 4473 form, and it's just a slap on the hand. Now, yours truly does it. I'm going to Sing Sing. Bye-bye, baby. So I want to talk to someone that really understands this, because I used to just jump out of airplanes and shoot bad guys. But let's talk to Judge Jeanine Pirro. And Judge Jeanine Pirro began her career as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York. It was there that she started the first domestic violence unit in the nation as a young litigator. She was the first woman in the history of that county to prosecute a murder case. As a trial attorney, she had a 100% conviction rate. That's damn good. With a highly successful legal career spanning over 3 decades, in 1993, Judge Pirro was elected Westchester County District Attorney. She held the position for 12 years. In 1990, she was elected as the first woman to serve as a Westchester County court judge. Judge Jeanine Pirro began her career as a legal analyst on Fox News Channel and began hosting her weekend program, Justice with Judge Jeanine, in 2011, which remained the top-rated program in its Saturday evening slot for over a decade. Currently, Judge Jeanine Pirro co-hosts The Five on Fox News Channel, the highest-rated program on the network. Pirro earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Buffalo, where those damn black students ran me off the campus. That's okay. Magna cum laude, and received her Juris Doctor J.D. Law degree from Albany. That's how we say it down south, Albany Law School. She continues to reside in Westchester along with her 3 poodles, Stella, Red, and Ted. Judge Jeanine Pirro, welcome to the Steadfast and Law podcast, my dear friend.
Well, thank you. That was painful to listen to. Look, I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA, and that's it. I ran for office 5 times, and I've got the scars to prove it.
Well, that's
and
okay.
I got it. First of all, it's good to be with you.
Yeah.
And secondly, I didn't know you jumped out of planes and shot people. I would like to have done that myself.
I believe that you would.
I would.
I know that you would.
In fact, today there's a few people I'd like to jump out of a plane. No, I'm only kidding. But I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you.
Well, Judge, let's talk about this incredible book that you have written, Crimes Against America. You are now presenting unmatched indictments against Joe Biden, his administration, and far-left ideologues who have sought to change our way of life by fundamentally transforming America as we know it. What inspired you to break this down and look at it from a pure legal aspect?
Well, you know, Alan, this is my 8th book.
Yes.
And my 4th political book. And, you know, I've written several books on you know, what's going on in America, but there wasn't anything that infuriated me quite as much as the motivation to write this book. My background is as a prosecutor, a trial attorney, and I just felt that we talk about crime all the time, but we don't talk about our nation being the victim of a crime, one large crime, one organized criminal conspiracy, where the effort by the left is to take this country down, and they are taking the republic down.
Yeah.
I see. And I indict the left, and I talk about in each chapter what they're doing. And I start, Alan, with a breach of sovereignty. The truth is, We are no longer a sovereign nation. We do not have borders. We are nothing more than a global landing spot with benefits. Anyone can demand to come here and receive education, medication, housing, and we don't even have the right to know who they are. And I don't have to tell you this of all people, but the idea that you have to go to a federal court and get a federal judge to say to the Biden administration, hey, look, you cannot release these people en masse into the interior of the United States without at least giving them an alien registration number. It's clear that the Biden administration is complicit with this invasion. And years ago, if I even used the term invasion or surge, I would be a racist, any whatever kind of phobe they could come up with. And the truth is that I'm an American. And I feel that the first order of government is the protection of its citizens. And that is not happening right now. And the Biden administration is allowing for basically, Alan, the creation of new congressional districts.
Yes.
Because when they do the census and they'll count you legal, illegal, why they don't give a damn if you're from Mars. All right, it's another congressional seat. And where are those seats going to be? They're going to be in California and New Mexico. They're going to try to put them in places where they can get additional seats because they are losing America. And, I keep going on and talk about how the Department of Justice has been compromised. Today is a perfect example. How the defund the police is hurting the ordinary citizens. How the whole idea of, religion is frowned upon anymore. How the COVID brought out the totalitarian instincts on the part of the liberals who wanted to shut us down and train us to do certain things. And there is a bigger agenda going on. And Barack Obama was very clear when he said he was going to fundamentally transform this nation. And Joe Biden is completing it. If you'll recall, Alan, Barack Obama had this sketch, or it was some kind of a sketch of a little girl. She was a stick figure, and her name was
The Life
Julia.
of Julia. Life of Julia.
You got it. So Julia is born, and then Julia's on a SNAP program for food, and then Julia gets a Pell Grant for college, and then Julia gets, she's able to get maternity care and all that other stuff, whatever she wants, Planned Parenthood, and then Medicaid, Medicare, and all that stuff. And, there's no parent in that sketch. There's nothing. And then you fast forward to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden talks about the fact that the kids are ours in the school. They're our kids. No, they're not. That is a socialist, Marxist mentality. The kids belong to the state. They have to be indoctrinated by the state. They are owned by the state. And you parents, you shouldn't even know what we're teaching them. And all of the pieces came together. And that's why I wrote the book. Everything was used in a way to tamp down our independence, our freedom of speech. It was during Obama. It had to be politically correct. And then if you didn't say it right, you'd be canceled. You'd be ostracized. Then you'd lose your job. Or, you would simply be told that, you don't have the right to speak. The press didn't have the right to speak during the 2020 convention with the Hunter Biden laptop. And none of us could speak to each other about the laptop. All our social media was taken down. It's a violation of the First Amendment. And finally, during the pandemic, there was a case in Las Vegas. I'm sure you've heard of it. It was a Calvary Church. Calvary Church is closed down. Case goes to the United States Supreme Court. And they joined in an amicus brief, I think, the Cinemark theaters and the casinos. So the Supreme Court comes down with a decision and they say, okay, if you want to go to the multiplex movie theater, 18 of them at what time, go right ahead. If you want to go to the casinos, have on it. You want to spin those numbers, you want to play cards, you do whatever you want to do. But if you want to go to the Calvary Church, only 50 of you at a time.
Yes.
That's when I said, this is a takedown of religion in America.
Now what you just laid out, and one of the things I told people, when you go back and look at the census issue, the left has always been against counting American citizens. They just want to count numbers, which leads to exactly what they're doing. You flux in 5 to 7 million people, 1.5 million, we don't even know where they are. Why is it that people are sitting around, and when I say people, you got judges, you got governors, you've got, Republican Party, House of Representatives, senators, and they're seeing all of these unconstitutional things. There's no debate about it. This is unconstitutional. Our founding fathers gave us a system of checks and balances. The executive branch is not supposed to just run amok like we see happening in all these different agencies and things that they're doing. Who the heck has the cojones to stand up and say, cut the crap?
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'll answer this by the news that I saw today. John Eastman, who was one of Donald Trump's lawyers, I don't know in which case, they're trying to take away his law license. Okay, doctors who were recommending
Hydroxychloroquine.
hydroxychloroquine,
Yeah.
uh, they are literally up for losing their licenses in California. They're trying to take their licenses away. For some reason, Alan, the left has some power that, they have gotten themselves into those areas where they're going to affect your livelihood and your ability to make a living. So there you got lawyers who fight for a living. You've got doctors who save lives. And those two people, those individuals, doctors and lawyers, are at a loss to even defend or represent themselves against the left. When the mainstream media is complicit, and I talk about this in Crimes Against America, when the mainstream media is complicit, when they have something to gain, then the quiet man, the forgotten man and woman in America doesn't have a chance. But I really believe that, like in 2016, when they came out for Donald Trump, I think the forgotten man and woman who has seen so much. I mean, we see Donald Trump indicted for crimes that the left is literally getting away with. Joe Biden had classified documents when he didn't have a right to even have them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not supposed to take them out of that skiff, and yet he's got them like 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Joe Biden is the one guy who's been in Washington a half a century and has nothing, I tell you, Alan, nothing that he can point to and say, I did this. He's nothing more than a fool right now who has gotten to the highest level of power by apparently using influence and pay to play. And he did it. He's so stupid. He did it in January of 2018 when he told the story at the Foreign Relations press conference or hearing, where he said, I told them in Ukraine, if you don't get rid of the prosecutor on that company, Burisma, we're not going to give you $1 billion in Americans' money. Well, first of all, Joe Biden, who the hell are you to leverage our taxpayer dollars on a prosecutor simply because you got to be the point man on energy and you're playing it to your team to make sure your son and his friends, Devin Archer and the rest of them in Shorewin, get to keep those heavy duty monthly payments that they get. And now we find out in that 1023 unclassified that you've got the owner, Zolofchesky of Burisma, who tape recorded the Bidens. Of course he tape recorded them. He's giving them $5-10 million. He wants to make sure he gets the job done. Yeah, I sent you millions. You better make sure that my company is clean so I can make deals in the United States. These people are whores. They are an organized criminal enterprise, Alan. And I talk about this in my book, Crimes Against America. And I talk about the fact that we have got to hold people accountable. Hunter Biden with a slap on the wrist. Everybody's saying today, oh, isn't this great? He's taking responsibility. Nonsense. He got the deal. Century. If you want to take responsibility, sit his butt down at a trial table and let a jury decide what his fate is and let a judge sentence him to decades in prison for what he did. And how are they taking responsibility? 5 years later, I could write that accusatory instrument in 10 minutes. All right. So why does he owe $1.2 million? How much money do you have to make to pay 1.2 million in taxes? $4 million? What do you have to make? And if you're just a drug dealer, what the hell are you doing making that kind of money? What are you doing? You don't have a business. You don't have a company. You're hung out on drugs and, you're just hanging out with every whore that you can find. How are you making so much money in 1 year? I'll tell you, Alan, it's infuriating. It is infuriating.
Well,
I know people.
It's
Yeah.
beyond, it really is beyond infuriating because what we see is, again, this dual level of justice because Alan West lies on a 4473 form. It's no question about it. I don't get to, adjudicate it down to a misdemeanor. I'm gone for 5 years. Everyone knows that when you go to fill out a 4473 form to get a firearm, you lie on that sucker, you're done. That's a felony offense. And so this two-tier system of justice is what is just ingrating people to say, who's going to stand up and who's going to fight for us? Because it seems that there is law for some people, but there is not a law for others. And, if we can't get this story out, because as you said, you have complicit media outlets that are just whitewashing it, then what is the real recourse? And this takes me to the next question I really want to ask you. This whole indictment on the Espionage Act, I mean, does this have legs to stand on? Because to me, it seems that this is just a Presidential Records Act, violation, if it is anything at all.
It is. Look, the Presidential Records Act, as you know, Alan, was passed in 1978 because nobody questioned what they could take and what they couldn't take. And the first, I think, is 31 counts of the indictment are nothing more than, just stacking one count on another. And it's really a civil case based upon the fact that the Presidential Records Act is a civil a civil act. It is, they use the word espionage, I think, for several reasons. One, for the shock effect. And number two, because if you'll recall, it was Hillary Clinton, according to the Durham report, who made up the whole Russia collusion.
Yes.
And the most disgusting part of it, Alan, is that she told Joe Biden and she told Barack Obama that she was creating this whole thing and making up a dossier to get the press off her back for the email scandal where she obstructed justice and destroyed evidence, 33,000 emails, mostly for her yoga, which I find hard to believe, but that's another issue. And so what you've got is you've got this indictment which has espionage, and people think, oh yeah, I remember Russia. And some people on the left still aren't clear that that was a total hoax, and even Mueller didn't know what the hell was going on. But they had us at each other's throats for 4 years in this country. People not talking to each other, neighbors, family, loved ones, just not talking. He's a Putin puppet. He's a Russian asset. He was none of those things. And so now what they are doing is they've indicted him in New York, Alvin Bragg. The guy, I don't know what he's doing as a DA. I'm embarrassed to say I was a DA if this guy's a DA. He doesn't know the meaning of it. He doesn't know what it's for. All he knows is he's going to use it to politically target people like Danny Penny, the former Marine, on the subway in New York City, a locked, moving underground subway car, right, where nobody's there to help. He comes in to help, and of course, there you have it. Let's indict him for manslaughter, for homicide. But this attempt to take down Donald Trump is nothing more than an indication of how fearful they are of him. Let the man run. Let the man run. If all you say is true, people won't vote for him. But the more they go after him, the more people say this doesn't feel right. This isn't right. I don't like how this feels. And in the end, we'll see what happens. They are petrified. So why are they petrified, Alan? They're petrified because he's not one of them. Yeah. He doesn't commit crimes against this country. You may not like him for his personality. I'm a New Yorker. I get it. That's another issue. I've known him for 40 years. But he did good things for this country. And no one can question that he never took a dime from anybody the way the Bidens have done it, the way the Clintons have done it. They're pigs at the trough. Believe me, all of them. And Joe Biden is a cognitively deficient, declined individual who, when he said God save the Queen last Friday, and dead, and he went to her funeral, he's in Connecticut saying this. Yeah. Come on. What do you think Xi Jinping is doing? He's going to be in Taiwan before the next 2 years are up. Just like Putin is in Ukraine when he didn't dare take anything when Donald Trump was there. But Putin took Crimea. He annexed Crimea when Obama was there. But nobody touched anybody when Trump was there because they knew that Donald Trump was going to fight for America. So, that's all. That's why I wrote the book. I'm I'm furious. I think if you get the book, there's all kinds of footnotes. You can argue with anybody, and you can you can see what is going on and how this is a pattern, how this started before and how it's coming to fruition. And when people talk to each other, I can go anywhere and people say, I can't say this at my job, but I love Donald Trump, or I love you, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I myself, God help us. I'm almost happy I'm on the back nine of my life, because if I had to keep fighting this, I mean, we are so far from where we were 30, 40 years ago. It is stunning, and it happens quickly and it happens furiously.
Well, let me ask you this final question. I'm going to put you in a hypothetical situation, and I know you're going to love what I'm about to ask you. You just became the next Attorney General of the United States of America. What do you do with the Department of Justice?
Clean it the hell out. I think the whole FBI's got to be, it's got to be revamped. Everybody submits their resignation and you start from scratch. I think the Department of Justice is the way it is because there are people who have favors that one hand washes the other, each is patting the other on the back. Alan, I know for a fact, what federal prosecutors, and when I was a DA, Jim Comey was the United States attorney, and we worked some cases together. Our buildings were right next to each other. And he's a smart guy, smarter than someone who would say no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute him.
Yeah.
But these people have made a decision. They picked a side, and the side is not America. The side is not the American people. And so they've all got to go. This has to go. There are a lot of good men and women in the FBI and in the Department of Justice, but the prosecutors vacation with the judges, who vacation with the clerks, who vacation with the law secretaries, who they all vacation together. And then the judge gives a former United States attorney a monitorship of a police department or of a company. If they're all making big bucks together in that federal system, shut it the hell down. It's got to stop.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. Where can people follow you out there, and where can people get the book Crimes Against America, The Left's Takedown of Our Republic, on Winning Publishing?
Well, you can go to judgejbook.com. It's singular, judgejbook.com. You can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get books. And you can follow me on Instagram, Judge_Jeanine, Twitter, Facebook, Judge Jeanine Pirro. I'm on the 5 every day. I've got a radio show on WABC on Sundays at 11, and I pretty much work my tail off.
Well, that's all right. We need your voice out there. And when's the next time you're going to be down here in Texas?
Well, I was in Texas, I think 2 weeks ago, but it was part of the book tour. I don't know where I was. I just fall off the plane and walk. Hopefully soon. I look forward to it, Alan. It's good to talk to you, and I appreciate what you're doing too.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you soon one day.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us for this episode of the Steadfast in Law podcast. Special thanks and shout out to Judge Jeanine Pirro for being with us and sharing her thoughts on her latest book, Crimes Against America. And as always, if you like this podcast, please click the like button and please share it with others. And until next time, steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.